Look, today we're taking traditional productivity and just completely turning it on its head. If you've ever had one of those days where you're constantly running around, totally busy, but you get to the end of the day and realize you made zero progress on what actually matters, yeah, you're in the exact right place. In this explainer, we're diving into the science of reclaiming your time through a tool that is surprisingly simple, but totally counterintuitive. We're talking about the not-to-do list. It's a strategy that fundamentally rewires how you approach your day, cutting right through the noise so you can focus on what actually deserves your attention. So, let me ask you this. Have you ever stared down your to-do list and just felt this massive wave of exhaustion hit you before you've even checked off a single box? You are definitely not alone there. The truth is, traditional task management sets us up to fail. It leaves us overwhelmed and honestly pretty unfulfilled. We take every random thought, every tiny request, every little chore, and we dump it onto this sprawling, never-ending list. And what does that do? It creates massive decision fatigue. By the time we sit down to do the real deep work, our mental energy is already completely fried, just from trying to figure out where to start. It's basically a guaranteed recipe for feeling incredibly busy but totally unproductive. The big paradigm shift we need to make here is realizing that traditional to-do lists are, by their very nature, additive. Every new email, every minor request, it just gets piled on top, and that inherently breeds overwhelm. The not-to-do list, on the other hand, is subtractive. It operates completely on the principle of elimination. By proactively deciding what you are literally going to ignore, you instantly create clarity. It's a seriously liberating mindset shift. You stop asking, okay, what else do I have to cram in today, and start asking, what must I absolutely strategically avoid? Okay, so what exactly is it? A not-to-do list is a physically documented list of time-wasting tasks and negative behaviors that you consistently, reliably vow to avoid. And I know it might sound a little weird at first to actually write down the things you aren't going to do, but physically documenting these items is this deeply powerful psychological exercise. It forces you to look your specific productivity pitfalls right in the eye, and it draws a hard, undeniable boundary around your daily focus. Now, to really understand why we need to stop doing so much, we have to talk about the Pareto principle. You probably know it as the 80-20 rule. It's this brilliant concept showing that in most systems, 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. When you map that onto your average workday, it means only a tiny fraction of your tasks are actually driving meaningful outcomes. Think about it. If you've got 20 things on your plate, realistically, only about 4 are true needle-moving priorities. Your real job is to identify those 4 things, protect them with your life, and throw the rest straight onto your not-to-do list. And that brings us perfectly to the bottom half of the famous Eisenhower matrix. This right here is the exact birthplace of your not-to-do items. First, you've got those tasks that feel incredibly urgent, but let's be real, aren't actually important to your core goals. These are the ones you have to ruthlessly delegate. Pass them to a junior team member, or better yet, automate them with an AI tool. Then you have the worst offenders, tasks that are neither urgent nor important. Don't just delay them or push them to next week. Delete them entirely. They belong permanently and completely unapologetically on your not-to-do list. So what specifically goes on this list? Well, here are a few classic examples. First up, your personal vices and bad habits. Checking your inbox 20 times a day or mindlessly scrolling social media the second you hit a mental roadblock. Second, those incredibly annoying boomerang tasks. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The stuff you officially delegated, but it magically loops right back onto your desk because a colleague wants just a quick review. No way. And finally, those requests you know deep down you should say no to, but you end up taking on out of sheer guilt. Put every single one of those right on the list. But here is the real million-dollar question. If we logically know these tasks are a massive waste of time, why is it so incredibly hard to stop doing them? Why do we keep falling back into the exact same traps over and over? Well, to figure that out, we actually have to peel back the layers and look at the neuroscience behind our daily habits and why we chronically avoid the hard stuff. See, there is an absolute battleground raging inside your brain every single day. Procrastination, it isn't actually a time management issue at all. It's an emotional regulation issue. When you face a complex, daunting task, your limbic system, specifically your amygdala, detects it as a literal, genuine threat. It screams at you for immediate relief and short-term comfort. And this powerful emotional driver just completely overpowers your prefrontal cortex, which is the rational, forward-thinking part of your brain that actually cares about your long-term success. Because of this intense neural tug-of-war, we end up developing distinct procrastination styles. Listen to these and think about which one sounds like you. First, you've got arousal procrastinators. They purposefully wait until the absolute last possible second just to trigger a massive dopamine rush from deadline panic. Then you have avoidant procrastinators. They are driven by a massive amygdala threat response. Basically, they're just terrified of potential failure or judgment. And finally, productive procrastinators. This one is super sneaky. They use reward substitution. They'll do low-priority busy work, like aggressively organizing their digital folders, specifically to avoid the massive high-value task they are actually afraid of. And all of this behavior perfectly illustrates the habit loop. Fascinating neuroscience research out of MIT shows that our repetitive behaviors actually get grouped, or chunked, into an automatic cycle in this ancient part of the brain called the basal ganglia. The loop has 3 parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. So you hit a specific cue, say a notification ping or sudden spike in stress. Boom, your brain automatically runs the routine. You open a new tab or check your phone just to get the reward of a tiny, fleeting dopamine hit. It happens so fast it literally bypasses your conscious decision-making altogether. So how in the world do we break that loop? This is where the not-to-do list works its absolute magic. Step 1. Physically write down the negative behavior. I'm serious. The sheer physical act of writing it down explicitly shifts neural control away from that automatic basal ganglia and forces your rational prefrontal cortex to wake up and engage. By bringing the bad habit into your conscious awareness, you can pinpoint the exact environmental cue that triggers you. And once you can see that cue coming from a mile away, you can consciously disrupt the unproductive routine before it even gets started. Now, if you're still really struggling to execute on the things you know you should be doing, you can actually hack your brain's reward system using this fantastic strategy called temptation bundling. It's brilliant. You intentionally pair a mundane, boring task that you normally run away from with an instantly gratifying guilty pleasure. Like, you are only allowed to listen to your absolute favorite true crime podcast while you're doing household chores, or you can only get a pedicure while you answer that terrifying backlog of work emails. You're basically using the gravitational pull of your vices to effortlessly drag you through your obligations. Here's another amazing tactic to keep that junk off your plate: the Ohio method. OHIO. Only handle it once. See, procrastination loves to disguise itself as efficiency. We open an email, think, I'll deal with this later, and just leave it sitting there. But every single one of those half-finished actions creates this lingering mental clutter and severe cognitive overload. The Ohio method says if you touch it, you have to decide on it immediately. Do it, delegate it, or delete it, right then and there. The golden rule here is put it away, not down. All of this beautifully ties into a highly effective, minimalist productivity philosophy known as Zen to Done, or ZTD. ZTD teaches us that true, lasting productivity isn't about doing more. It's actually about massive simplification. It's about systematically reviewing your tasks, ruthlessly eliminating the non-essential, and honestly, developing the deep courage to say no so you actually value your own time. When you clear out all that mental clutter with your not-to-do list, you instantly free up the bandwidth to fiercely protect your 3 most important tasks every single day. 0 distractions. There is this great quote from the creator of Zen to Done, Leo Babauta, that just perfectly sums up the entire journey we've taken today. He says, "You can never do all the things you want to do. You must simplify to the bare essentials." It is just such a beautifully stark reminder that our time is completely finite. Grinding harder, sleeping less, and simply trying to do more, that is definitely not the answer. Intentionally choosing exactly what not to do, that is the ultimate productivity hack. So, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question. What is the one time-wasting task, the one sneaky little bad habit, or that one boomerang delegation that you are going to write on your not-to-do list today? I challenge you right now to take immediate action, explicitly disrupt those old automated habit loops, and finally take your focus back. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now, get out there and start crossing things off your list by simply never doing them again.